Well, today is the day after Thanksgiving, and I want to welcome all of you to episode 37. Walter and I both would like to welcome you. We are sitting in my craft room right now, which I recently straightened out, and in just a few moments, I'll give you a tour of our new digs here in the craft room. But I wanted to say welcome to all of you who are coming back. I do so appreciate the returning viewers. And for those of you that are new here, welcome to our podcast, Knittings and Sewings. This is a place where we talk about all things fiber related, including knitting, crochet, sewing, weaving, spinning. And Walter is my trusty little sidekick and companion in all crafty things. And he is wearing his little Chiefs jersey today. And I am wearing my Christmas shawl. I'm going to, if you can jump down just a minute, Sweet Pea. Thank you. I will show everyone my Christmas shawl. This is a shawl that I made several years ago, actually during the pandemic, when I was in a huge crochet phase. And so I'm going to take it off a moment so you can see the full span of it. But I have it wrapped right now in the bandana style around my neck, but I also, it has little tassels on the end, but I also frequently wear this around my body as a traditional shawl like this with the tassels hanging down. I am really enjoying this time of year. We just had a wonderful Thanksgiving with my cousin Vicki and her husband Craig hosting a lovely Thanksgiving with all of the family. And that was such a wonderful time to connect with my loved ones. We are an aging family and we don't have a large family left, but it was such a wonderful thing to get everyone together in her home, to gather together and reconnect once again and experience the gratitude for being together and having one another for all these years and the wonderful family that we came from. And so, yeah, it was a real pleasure, and I hope that you guys had a wonderful, fulfilling Thanksgiving also. I know it can be a rough time of year for some people from now through the end of the year with the holidays, but hopefully we will all make the most of the people in our lives and the connections we can make. And for those of you who don't have those family members to connect to, I hope that, I know that can be tough. I've had times where, where that happens. It can be, a challenging time. But whatever it is, I am coming to you today wearing my Christmas shawl and wanting to tell you a little bit about this in case you are in the mode of making gifts for someone or for yourself. This is an easy to do crochet shawl. And I'm going to put a link to the pattern if you choose to get it. You can buy it through Ravelry, and I believe you can also buy it through the Leither website because the designer of this shawl is Ashley Leither of Leither & Co. And it's a very simple to do shawl if you are a crocheter. And it would be a good one if you are a fairly new crocheter to start off as a first crochet shawl project. Excuse me there, I'm drinking my ginger tea. This is another good tea for you to try. The Twinings gingerbread, is it gingerbread? Yeah, gingerbread tea. I really enjoy this throughout the holidays, and so I'm really enjoying that. But anyway, getting back to the Christmas shawl. For those of you who do want to do a crocheted quick gift item or for yourself or someone else, this is a good option. I made it using Ashley's kit at the time. She had a Christmas shawl kit along with the pattern where she had the bright red and then the kind of mixture variegation of Christmas red with cream and then finally the green. And so you could make this up for yourself. She no longer sells the kits. And in fact, what I want to say today is that unfortunately Leither & Co. is, I understand, going to be no more after the end of this year. She's selling out her last little bit of yarn that she has, and it's mostly sold out at this point. But I understand that the reason is they used to have a monthly subscription kit, And what I loved about it was always crochet focused. And her husband made some lovely crochet hooks, and she designed patterns for crochet, and also had the subscription kits where you would get a little accessory item with each kit that went along with the skein of yarn that they mailed you. And so I really enjoyed that kit. It got me through a lot of hard times during the pandemic and gave me a focus. In fact, that year in 2020, mostly all I did in the way of crafts was to do crochet. I found it very comforting, and I still do. Whenever I need comfort in my life, I turn to crochet. And so I'm very sad to say that they are no longer going to be in business. I believe a lot of it had to do with, having harder times economically. They weren't making it. They lost a lot of their client base, according to what I read. But I don't know how valid that is. But I do know that they are no longer going to be in business, at least for the time being. And so it makes me sad, but it also reminds me that whenever I can, within my limited budget, I need to support my local dyers, hand dyers. And one in my local area I choose to support. I know her in person and have been to her yarn dyeing barn and have parties there. She has twice a year has parties at her yarn barn, her barn where she makes her yarn. And so Christine of Treasure Goddess, she's one I really want to at least put whatever support I can in supporting the local hand dyers like Christine at Treasure Goddess. Because for me, I'll do whatever I can do, even if it's just buying a skein of sock yarn occasionally to remind myself that these hand dyers are struggling, especially. So anyway, I'm going to throw my support behind them whenever I can. But I wanted to mention that if you want to buy any of her patterns, are still available, including the Christmas shawl on Ravelry, and it's very easy to go online there and purchase from her, Ashley Leither, Leither Co. She also has, recently, I've noticed she has a knitted sock pattern. Most of her designs focus on crochet, but I do notice that she did recently, or still have available, a simplicity sock that she designed that is a knitted sock. So if you don't do crochet, you could still crochet her simplicity sock and throw a little support to Leither & Co. But this is a sock I made. I do want to do more socks this year. I haven't done very many in 2024. But this is a Christmas sock my mom made many years ago from our local yarn store. They had some sock yarns available in different colors, and these are a pair that she made. I want to make a very similar pair for myself. And I'll show you the yarn I'm going to use. It's the Hobbii. It's called, upside down, Christmas Sock Wool Glitter. And it looks very similar to the sock my mom made all those years ago. This sock mom made really has held up well. And I'm giving those back to her so she can enjoy them again. I wore them for many years, but I'm going to make myself a pair of this Hobbie's Christmas Sock Wool Glitter. And you may be able to find a variegated yarn of your own, either through a hand dyer or, through maybe you have some in your stash even. But I'm going to try to cast these on here in the next few days during the Thanksgiving 4-day holiday so that I can get another pair of socks on my needles. I find knitted socks to fit better for me than anything else, than crocheted or any other kind. So I'm going to be casting on some of these Christmas socks. The first thing I want to delve into is I mentioned redoing my craft room and reorganizing it. I did a big declutter and put the room in order of how I can use it best to actually do crafts as well as just use it as a storage area. I tend to, over time, in my craft room, I don't know about you, but since I do multiple crafts, I tend to start piling things on the tables in here, and just kind of, eventually it becomes kind of in the closet. I have my yarn and other items stored in this closet here to my left, as you view it, my left, I guess. Anyway, I tend to pile things in that closet, And so I also tend to pile things on the table in here, the big long sewing table. And so, and even on my ironing board at times in this room. So I have a lot of piling behavior that I have to sort through every now and then, or the room becomes more of a storage area than a usable craft space. But I would like it to be both a storage and mainly though, an active craft space. So during my week off, when I had that staycation week at the beginning of this month, I took the whole week off as I told you I wanted to do, and I made a wanna-do list instead of a to-do list like I usually do. I decided to make a wanna-do list, and I wrote down a bunch of things I wanted to do inside and outside of the house to really make myself get in alignment again with feeling refreshed and relaxed and having fun. And so that's what I did. The first day on Monday, actually on Sunday and Monday, I reorganized the craft room. And right now I want to show you a quick tour of how it looks now. Well, here we go, a tour of my newly revamped craft room. I wanted to show you, not that it's anything fancy because it isn't, but I wanted to show you how I took my small craft room, and I do this about once every 6 months to a year. I want to show you how I rearranged it so that I can work in all of my crafts in one room and use it for a mixture of storage, but mainly working on my crafts. And I have this first table is one of my centerpieces, work areas. I have now on the left my sewing machine and my basic sewing instruments in the middle. And then on the right, I have my new serger. I got the Brother 1034DX, and it's on the right, so that I can now work on both of those, going in between them and moving the chair in between them as needed. Now to this messy area up here, I've moved those shelves, the shelving. At the very top, I moved my drum carder that used to sit on this table so that I can still grab it and use it when I need to. And it's got my ball winders and all kinds of different supplies that I do need to reorganize, but you get the basic idea. Over here, I have my little table loom set up. And this is one that I was considering disassembling and putting somewhere else, but I really do want it to be accessible and usable. It's an 8-shaft table loom, mountain table loom, and I want to keep it going and keep it up so that as I need it, I can just pull it forward and use it. So I think putting it here by the window is a good solution. Over here I have my main loom, the 4-shaft baby wolf loom, and my little weaving cart and my caddies behind it. These are a shelving solution I came up with about 2 years ago. And I really do like these. They're solid. They stay together well. They hold a lot of stuff. I obviously need to reorganize them and clean them up, tidy them up. But they've been very functional for me for the last couple of years since I last oriented my craft room, reoriented. And on the top there of that shelf, you see that I have my inkle loom resting there too. And to the right, my bobbin winder for my weaving. And I have a trusty light. It's been through a lot of things. It's kind of torn up, but I use it. Over here in the corner, I still can have my little sitting area where I can do my knitting, my crochet, or whatever I want to do. And I just move that ironing board away when I'm using that. But it still keeps the little sitting area that I wanted to have when I set this up a few months ago. So I can still keep my chair in the room, which is nice. And I can just move this ironing board anywhere or put it away as needed. In this closet it's an old-fashioned 1970s closet, so it doesn't hold a lot, but I do have, that's where I have a place to keep my yarn and so forth, and to store my projects, my whips, and all the stuff I want to put away, I can put in that closet. I have my dress form Millie and my yarn cone tree that Bob made for me to hold my weaving yarn. So that's the basic setup right now, and I'm really happy with it. I just wanted to show you. So as you can see, I now have this long table cleared off where I have both my sewing machine and my new serger. I got a 1034 DX serger for my birthday, and I've been wanting a serger for a long time. I was always worried that I wouldn't be able to thread it because I used to have a lot of trouble threading my grandmother's old serger that I tried to use for several years, and I just couldn't get the hang of it. So I bought this 1034 Brother DX serger, and I've already been able to thread it myself and have done a lot of practicing on different samples, but I want to actively use it. And so that is going to be something here in the near future I will do. But that now is going to be in usable format. I just realigned the whole room. I still have my table loom in here and my my shacked loom in here also, my big loom, floor loom, baby wolf. But I also, I just have a better arrangement for what I intend to do in the craft room this year. And so I'm really happy about that. That really charged up the beginning of my week off. And then from there, I spent a day touring the Linda Hall Library at UMKC. The Linda Hall Library is a scientific library that is, I believe they do research there for science. And they had hosted, and still have it going till the end of the year, I believe. They have basically, I don't want to use the term UFO because there's now a new term for it, but it's basically unidentified aerial phenomena. They went through with several exhibits demonstrating the progress in scientific research on exploring what I call UFOs. And I got to wear my UFO jacket. I don't know if you remember last fall, clearing from the summer to the fall, I was working on a denim jacket and doing embellishments on it to make it into my UFO jacket. And I wear it occasionally. I don't wear it nearly as often as I should because I really get a kick out of it whenever I wear it. But I'm going to put a picture of it up here in case you don't remember it. I wore this to the Linda Hall Library that day when Bob and I toured the museum. And we really had a good time. That evening they had a lecture from a professor who came in for the event. And it was actually so full, we watched that part on Zoom. But it was really fun. And we found out that there are other lectures that we can listen to because we love, astronomy and science fiction and that kind of thing. Kind of a mixture of science and some of the phenomena that have gone on I'm fascinated with. So we had a good time that day. The next day on Wednesday, I spent the day with Carolyn, my friend, who had her day off, and we went to Yarn Barn in Lawrence, Kansas, which we love to go to Yarn Barn. But we spent the whole day, I'd say half the day at Yarn Barn, and then we had also this quilt shop across the street from them, a fabric/quilt store. We also spent quite a bit of time in there as well. And then we went to lunch there. I just had a whole day of it. And spending time together, sitting down in Yarn Barn and looking at some of the patterns they have. They have, not only do they have all kinds of yarn for knitting and crochet, but also weaving is a big specialty of theirs. And we purchased a pattern called the Simple Waffle Weave Dish Towels. They also have patterns and samples available. And so we spent our time figuring out the design we wanted to try because we both do want to make waffle weave dish towels, kitchen towels. And I've loved making those in the past. They make wonderful gifts. And so I've already started winding the warp for what we picked that day. I picked a light gray, a charcoal gray, and a burgundy as my main colors that I'll be using in my waffle weave towels. So I do hope in the coming year I will do more weaving and get back to that. And so that's what we did. We purchased what we would each use for our kitchen towels. And I'll be showing you those more in the future as we work on those. But that's definitely something that I want to do more weaving and sewing this year. And I think my focus has moved away from trying to weave all my own cloth. I want to do some sewing of garments on commercial fabric because I do want to make more of my own wardrobe, but I'm finding that I have trouble making fabric that is very workable for garments. So I think I'm going to turn my focus more into doing sewing with commercial fabric this year. That's just something I'm thinking will happen. Next up, I want to show you I'm going to show you a crocheted shawl. I have gotten in the mood to do some crochet. I'll take this off for a moment to show you the latest thing I'm working on. This is using Hobbie's Tea Time yarn that they had a sale on it. This is 634 yards, and it's kind of they call it a 4-weight. It's just a nice light worsted, and I love the colors in it. It's got charcoal and beach, cream and copper and pink, you know, just a lot of beautiful colors in it. And it is, I believe this is acrylic. Let's hear, 100% acrylic. Yes. So this is acrylic. If you're not a fan of acrylic, you may not like this yarn, but I like the variegation of it, the way it automatically creates a patterning, you know, a color patterning. And it's getting kind of hard here with the sunlight coming in through the window to see the colors. But one thing about this shawl, it's honestly going to probably be much wider than it is tall. So this is not one that has it's not very long at the base. It's got a lot of width. And this is a Bag-O-Day crochet 2-row shawl pattern. And she has a tutorial for it. She does not have a written pattern. My friend Judy, my crochet guru, sat down with me and helped me kind of get the hang of this. The first 7 rows are like your setup rows, but from there, rows 6 and 7 repeat. And I marked the side that I think is going to be the right side, but you could actually have either side. I'm going to pull it up close, whoops, so you can see the patterning. It's got beautiful patterning on it. On one side, it has these little chains in between the cells of fabric, and on the other side it's a little less textured, more of the circles. But this is a very 3D texture effect. So if you are a person who likes textured shawls, you would really like this. There is some crocheting in the front post, but if you haven't learned that technique yet, it's fun. And if you have, that's what that is. You'll know what it is. But this could be as large as 96 inches wide, according to Bag-O-Day Crystal. It's not nearly as long in the spine. I will have to block this out a little bit to try to make it longer, because I tend to prefer my shawls to have 54 inches of length in the spine, and this may not have that much. So this may end up becoming more of kind of, you know, a scarfy thing rather than a full shawl. I'm not sure yet. But I think if I make it wide enough, I will be able to wrap it around my neck several times. And I like the basic design of this. So that is the Bag-O-Day 2-row shawl that she recently put out, and I'll have a link to it below. So now let's talk a little bit about, since we're near the end of the year, we're into very late November now, and there's only about a month left of the year. There's going to be a lot of holiday events happening. But one thing I'm starting to contemplate already, what I'm going to do as a focus for my year next year. I always start thinking about this near the beginning of November. That's, you know, a time that is just naturally starts for me into a time of gratitude and reflection. And it also starts me looking toward the new upcoming year and what I want that to look like for me. Last year I had the word connection as my word of the year, and I was focusing on building and developing and strengthening my relationships with other people. So I made some new friends, and I also reconnected with a lot of friends I already have and family, trying to make a better connection. There are still many people on my list that I want to reconnect with or make better connections with. So this word may kind of filter into next year as well, because I found it a very fulfilling focus for my year, and it really helped me get through a lot of tough things this year. And so I do like that connection, and it's been a really gratifying word for me this year. But for next year, I do already have a few words in mind that I think will help shape the new year. And I don't want to have, you know, a rigid plan. I want to have an unfolding like I did this year. And I think I had a lot of satisfaction in the crafts that I did, because I gave myself the freedom to work on what I wanted to work on and put aside things that weren't serving me anymore. Projects that I wasn't enjoying, I felt free to put aside or abandon toward working on things that were more fulfilling to me. So I hope to do that, continue that into the new year. But one thing I think I will be doing is more sewing. As I mentioned earlier, less trying to create my own fabric with my weaving, but sewing up commercial fabric. And this is one that when Carolyn and I were on one of our times together during my week off, I think is when we did it, we went to Joann's and we bought some more sweater yarn, because I had made that lovely cardigan for myself by taking that class, and I got a pattern which I will link here. But this is some beautiful charcoal cabled fabric. I don't know if you can see it very well up close, but Carolyn and I both decided to buy this. It was on sale. I think it was on sale. We bought that. And then also my second choice, another choice, was this oatmeal fabric that has some beautiful texture going on. And so I do want to make some cardigans, and because this is knit fabric, and it has a lot of great texture that I would normally choose to create when I make my own fabric, this will be lovely to try to sew, I will sew some lovely cardigans for myself. And this time I'd like to put pockets in. On the cardigan I made earlier, the light gray cardigan, it did not have pockets, but I'm going to try to put in side pockets inside there so I can, you know, have those included in the pattern. But I've been wearing that cardigan so much at the office particularly, and I think it's going to become a staple of my wardrobe. So I'd like to make a couple more in those more neutral colors. I'll have the light gray, which I already completed, and then the charcoal, and then this oatmeal-y color. I also would like to get a burgundy, because I love burgundy and wear it a lot. So having a burgundy one, if I find that fabric, I'll be making that as well. So I will be doing more sewing this year, and I think I can use my serger on this project, on the sweater project. One more thing I would like to begin in the new year is to take the cranberry-like yarn that I spun and dyed this last year. I dyed it this summer, this cranberry color. And at first I thought it was a fail dye-wise, but it ended up being fine. I had to over-dye several of the skeins to make them more consistent. And I've got enough here, though, I believe, to make a fairly simple cardigan, not a long cardigan, but a fairly short, simple cardigan. So I'm going to be starting that in the new year. I wanted to mention that because originally I thought that dye project was a failure and I ruined my yarn, but I ended up making it, you know, so that I think it now looks nice, and I'm happy to work with it. And so sometime here soon in the new year, I hope to cast on with knitting on making myself a cardigan, and I'll be sharing that with you in the future. The last thing I want to talk about today is a book I just read, and this is a perfect kind of end of the year book. It's fiction, and it's about 500 pages, but I altered between reading the hardback book and the audible book. I went back and forth on it. The author is Lianne Moriarty, and she's written several best-selling novels, but this particular one, the reason I love it, and I'm not going to go into too much detail because if you want to read it, you know, I don't want to give away anything in the plot, but it's about several people on an airplane. The whole airplane experienced an event in flying to Sydney, Australia, which is where this is set. All the characters are in Australia, which is very interesting for me to read that. It's set in Sydney and Perth. But the flight was going back to Sydney, and there was a passenger on the plane who was in some kind of trance-like state, and she pointed to every passenger on the plane, or almost everyone, and she predicted their date, the time of death they would die, like what year, how old they would be, and the cause of their death. And so the rest of the book, that sounds really depressing, but it's far from depressing. The book focuses on how the characters in that book, and there are many characters, so that's the one thing, it does go between one character and another. Eventually you get to understand, it gets more comfortable, but at first the shift can be, for those that don't like chapters that shift point of view, this does have several different characters' points of view. But I found it really interesting. The whole thing made me reflect on life, and it was kind of a magical reality kind of book, but was very fascinating to see how the characters reacted to the events on that airplane and how they all became kind of connected. But I found it a fantastic book. I enjoyed it tremendously, especially reading it toward the end of the year at a time of reflection on how would my life be differently if I were to know, the time of my own death, the year and the way I might die. How would it affect how I live each day? And so that's why it's called Here One Moment. But I found it, to me, to be a fascinating book, and made me reflect on a lot of things and journal on some things. So if you like that kind of book, you might enjoy this too. Well, it's that time where we wrap up. I appreciate you joining me again today. I know that, I didn't have a lot of completed projects to show you, but hopefully I got your wheels turning about how your year has gone craft-wise and what you might want to do, both for this holiday season as well as going into the new year. I really appreciate you stopping by. And as always, I'm going to say what I say every time. Love what you're making and wear what you make. Goodbye, everybody.